Morning. Thanks everybody for coming out for our kickoff session here today. What we're trying to do this morning is a fireside chat panel. So we've assembled a group of experts from the industry to talk and discuss a little bit about seeding. So I could introduce here to my immediate left, Mr. Dustin Schaefer. He's from Diamond M, Contracting and Seeding. They're a full-service seeding contractor, as well as erosion and sediment control materials installer. So they work mostly in Texas, I think, from meeting him this morning. But they provide a full suite of services to oil and gas industry, construction, DOTs. To his immediate left, I'd like to introduce Mr. Dean Lamanna, a local boy from right here in Denver, Colorado. Shout out to Denver. Going? No? There we go. Dean is a distributor here in the local area, but they also have satellite distribution in other parts of the country. But they supply a full complement of erosion sediment control materials, mulches, seeds, fertilizers, and they also provide value-added engineering services to their clients and customers throughout Colorado, the West, Pennsylvania, some back east in New York, and other extreme locations far away. To his immediate left, I'd like to introduce Mr. Rhett Kirby. He's from Reclamation Service Provider. The company is called Curtec. You may know Rhett from his many video blogs. He's sort of a internet sensation, which I admire and I'm trying to be better at myself personally. But welcome Rhett for his experience with lots of revegetation, specifications, plans, as well as monitoring and verifying that the desired results are achieved. To his immediate left, I'd like to introduce Ms. Lauren Allen Neese. She works for ECB Verdial. They're a manufacturer of erosion and sediment control materials, as well as biotic soil amendments, and they provide materials to a distribution network that is nationwide, as well as in Canada, and on occasion in container ships going over the water, which is exciting stuff. My name is Alex Zimmerman. I wear a number of different hats, full disclosure. I also work with ECB Verdial, but I work under contract for Alaska Department of Transportation, Northwest Territories Department of Transportation, as well as having my own consulting company that does a variety of plan preparation as well as site monitoring. So I think that covers our introductions. And with that, I'd like to dive right in. What we hope to discuss today is some common problems regarding site restoration and revegetation. I think anybody that's involved in the erosion and sediment control industry would agree that ultimately what we are trying to do is establish permanent vegetation, okay? Sustainable vegetation, maintainable vegetation, the right vegetation in the right places at the right time. And unfortunately, as anyone who's been in the industry for any amount of time has witnessed, failure, unfortunately, is too common. And unfortunately, often way too accepted. And so we just kind of wanted to discuss maybe some of the common challenges and problems with a successful restoration project, and maybe discuss ways of overcoming those challenges so that everybody can be more successful in achieving those goals of sustainable, maintainable restoration that meets all the project goals as well as the community goals. So hopefully that's why everybody attended, and with that, I'm going to sit down and figure it out. We're supposed to be like a TV talk show of some sort. A couple of disclaimers. Please put your phones on vibrate, and I think that's for all the meetings. And while this is supposed to be a talk show, there'll be no chair throwing, there'll be no arguing, and I don't want to hear anything about anybody's paternity tests, okay? So we created a general outline here. We've done our introduction, I covered that. And the first topic we wanted to discuss was seed. And I think with seed suppliers, seed specifiers, and seed appliers, we're going to be able to drill into this one pretty quickly. And the first topic was application rates and some of the challenges there. I don't know if you'd like to kick this off and maybe chat about some of the things about it.
Application rates, a lot of times people just go off of weight versus the actual PLS counts.
Can you hold it closer to your mouth?
We can't hear very well.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so a lot of times people go off after just bulk pounds and don't realize the actual necessity for PLS, the pure live seed. And there's not a whole lot of checks and balances in the field for us to watch the weights and everything. So a lot of times you see people with their bags of seed, but then they're weighing it out, you think everything's going correctly, but it's actually not the right amount of seed. And if you look over here, this is Indian grass from 2 different lots. So to show you a pure live seed, they both have the same amount of pure live seed, but you can see the size of the bag a lot bigger on the left side. So that's just in different lots of seed, how much something can change. So it's very important to actually go off the PLS side of the spec versus just weights.
But how many designers or specifiers out there try to include a pure live seed specification in their plans? Raise your hands. How many people have ever actually seen in the field that being quality assured and quality controlled? That's a tough one, and I'll throw my DOT hat on here, and often we just don't have the time to monitor all those aspects on the job site. Coming from a supplier's perspective, when you see quantities on bid tabs, how are we ensuring that we're getting the right amount of live seed out there?
Good question. Can you hear me okay? So, I mean, if we back up just 1 second, I mean, I think we spend a lot of time from that consulting standpoint of educating what the difference is between pure live seed and bulk seed as well. When you see a specification for pure live seed versus bulk seed too. So a lot of our standard stock mixes come in bulk seed. If you are putting down a PLS pound, obviously you're getting more live seed too. So does everybody understand the difference between the two between bulk and pure live seed?
From a supply standpoint, how are we ensuring that enough of the right product to achieve the specifications is making it out to the job sites? I would imagine that a contractor wants to buy as few pounds as possible, but that's just me coming from my contractor side.
I mean, that's really up to the contractor, right? So if they're ordering 10 acres of seed, we do our due diligence based on application or anything, there's broadcast or drill to make sure that we're supplying, whether it's in bulk pounds or PLS pounds, that the efficient amount of seed. So it's hard to make sure that it all gets applied at that rate, but we do our due diligence to educate not just our team at Triton or the public that how much you want to use or how much each seed or custom seed mix you want to have for that, because it's all different for custom seed mixes, and then we make sure it goes up to that.
Brett, I know you've got some experience in trying to translate standard specifications and guidance from our various agricultural departments into actual restoration projects, and you were telling me earlier about some of that. Why don't you share that with the group?
Sure. I want to start out by showing in that picture the difference in seed size. In those 2 bags, there is exactly the same amount of pure live seed. So the difference in volume is made up of inert material. That may be sticks, leaf material. I'm sorry. So the inert material is what makes up the difference in the volume of the 2. So if you were purchasing those 2 bags on a pure live seed basis, the purchase price would be the same. You're buying the same amount of pure live seed in those 2 bags. But if you were buying those 2 bags on a bulk basis, obviously the one on the left is going to have more bulk weight because it has more inert material. So you don't want to purchase on the bulk rate because you at least pose or position yourself in a way that you are purchasing inert material instead of only the pure live seed. So it's very important to understand the units of measure that the seed industry uses to sell seed to the end user. I would become very comfortable in using PLS pounds as the unit of measure for your specifications. If you're writing specifications or your contractor, you're purchasing seed, always purchase on the pure live seed unit of measure. That's the standard for USDA. That's the standard for TxDOT. If you are working on a project that's not specified under TxDOT or USDA, and it may be a private project, it may not specify a unit measure. But I would always receive or ask for clarification to make sure that if you're bidding a project, make sure that you understand how they want it bid, because you may position yourself in a way that you bid PLS and the competitors bid bulk. Well, they obviously will outcompete you because they are buying, they're going to supply inert material. So education and awareness is a huge, and that's why we're here today. I mean, that's what we want to do is encourage everyone to become aware and educated. Find people in the industry that you can ask questions to. Does that answer your question, Alex?
I think so, but we also have to be concerned about time.
Okay.
And so we could go down a rabbit hole on any of these topics for the entire day. Lauren, when it comes to being a manufacturer, ensuring that we get the right amount of materials out there, whether it be a mulch, a blanket, along with the seed and fertilizer materials, what's the best way to talk to a contractor or owner or project manager about ensuring that our quantities are going to be okay in the field? Because I find a lot of times we just wind up thin or short.
It is difficult. So a lot of times when we're bidding, right? I was a distributor, before I came on board for a manufacturer. A lot of times the numbers that come to us from contractors, the numbers that go to the contractors from the bid documents, from the specifiers, are just your flat. It's a 1 acre. It's a certain amount of square yards that doesn't take into account the surface area differences when you have track walk that area. If it is on a slope, is anybody doing a real calculation, or is it just a flat drop it onto a square? When you're in the field, if you're wheeling it off and you're doing your due diligence, like I know a lot of contractors are doing, it's still, a wheel will not take into account your surface area differences on that side. So it's quite difficult to take all those into account. And so, what is in a tank for seed? What is in a tank for your hydromulch? Can be very different. Even if you have marked it off for 1 acre, it's going to be thin if you do that and apply that over an area that has significant, texture, track walking put on that, or that is on the slope. So it is something that we face in the industry that we need to take more into account.
Thank you. And I find, I'll throw on my DOT hat here. I tell my project managers, project engineers, if you are sticking to an itemized bid tabulation to determine the quantities that you're willing to pay for and apply on your projects, you're essentially directing our contractors to violate the seating specification, which is in a different set of units. And I got a $100 bill in my pocket for the first person who shows me a set of plans where the bid tab lines up with the seed spec, and those two are going to be the same thing on any job site. So it's a difficult challenge to manage for a number of reasons, but application rate, the right amount of materials, whatever they are, is going to be critical for success. How about seeding time, soil temperature? I used to build golf courses. We had a general rule: if we don't have 3 days at 60 degrees, and we don't seed. What have you found in your experience?
It seems like the most common problem is when you expect something, you're scheduled out something, and a project goes along, and you went out to purchase because the GC has told you we're going to come in and seed, whether it be in the winter or the summer, you packed up all that seed, and then the project's come along for rain or something, and you just don't have the seeds to spray, and they want you to rush you or hold you up, and it just doesn't align with the right temperatures.
Okay. So we do, living in Colorado, different parts of the country, there's definitely a strategy for dormant seeding as well. So seeding time, depending on what kind of seed you're going to use, definitely kind of lean more towards native for dormant seeding than any kind of turf grasses too. So, but there is an education that needs to happen as far as when those expectations for that germination is going to take place. So what the soil temperatures are, what it is for each native grass, is essential to make sure that education goes to the end user, whoever that client might be.
And actually have to deal with different altitudes as well. I worked with cone harvesters for seed collection. We actually tracked all the elevations at which the cones were acquired so that reforestation efforts would be more successful for those climatized species. How do you address that in a seeding planning regime?
Yeah, it's, when you're doing a seed project at 14,000 feet on top of a mountain, and you're using some kind of tundra grass, those type of things, you have to make sure that, again, educate that client on what that growing season is going to be, because you only might have 1 or 2, maybe 3 months. That's going to happen. So your time frame might be years before you have any kind of substantial amount of vegetation in that area.
So really have to kick up the functional longevity of your erosion control materials there in that one. Red, I'd like to ask as a specifier. I know that we work very diligently to specify native seeds, but we do not always consider the seed type availability. This might have to jump back to me as a supplier, but I know that in Alaska, we have worked very hard, long hours to get the right species for the right environments. We've done a tremendous amount of work with the Department of Natural Resources. However, we're not issuing the POs on the projects in a time frame that is going to allow the market to supply the desired species, and then we make substitution sacrifices.
Sure. The seed industry generally takes roughly 3 years to provide material that is develop and supply material to the market. So if the Department of Natural Resources harvests and hand collects seed and supplies it to the seed industry, you would not see or expect that seed to be available in commercial quantity for roughly 3 years, because it takes land preparation as far as the agronomics of growing that seed into a commercially available quantity roughly takes 3 years. So that in my opinion contributes to what you just mentioned as far as if a new or I guess new would be the right word, species or variety was spec and then it's not available, then you have to substitute that. I would say that's due to the seed industry probably not having adequate time nor adequate understanding of the demand and potential price, because they've got to understand that there's a profit margin for them to be investing in. So I would say working with the seed industry would be a way to help or avoid that from happening too often.
Lauren, as a former distributor supplying these materials and now a manufacturer, any tips or hints on the timing of purchase orders for these materials necessary for projects to succeed?
Certainly, in a perfect world, as soon as the contract is awarded, it would be great to get a purchase order from your contractor, so you can cut that PO to your seed distributor, so it's not a mad dash scramble, but it is not a perfect world, and we all know everybody needs everything yesterday. Even the best laid plans. So that certainly in the past I have run across significant bottlenecks and the differences in pricing on seeds that you're having to substitute. If there is something that does not exist and the substitute is substantially more expensive, it can cause such headaches right there, right at the moment when we want to solve. So yeah, definitely can be an issue.
Let's assume we're all going to leave here with the right seed specification, a complete understanding of application rates, what's in the bag versus what's viable, better understanding of our timing, temperatures, and germination to be successful. Why don't we dig into soil fertility? And I'm going to be the first one to admit my guilt of the past of my common boilerplate triple 20 was going to solve all of my problems. Real quick, maybe these pictures I threw them in here right at the end to also discuss scheduling of seed. I find that on many of our projects, we have a critical path that forces us to seed way at the end, and it's absolutely not necessary. I don't know if you can tell in the background there, that's a cut slope where all the material came from. In the foreground is the fill slope. You can visually see that we have stabilized the cut on the way down and the fill on the way up. This is what it looks like in process. Next slide. Where we are not even done with the cut slope, but there comes our organic material on top. Keep going. First lift of the fill slope being done. Keep going. Second phase of the fill slope being done. Keep going. And those of you who sell materials, that's bonded fiber matrix with straw coconut blanket on top. Wattles to direct the flows off the slope. And of course, my bean counters were going nuts. But the $85.5 million design build project finished a year ahead of schedule, and everybody's laughing all the way to the bank. So it's possible to change our scheduling and get more time for vegetation restoration, germination, establishment, expression. Okay, so moving on to fertilizers here. There we are paving, but you see the grass is already growing, so you can skip the rest of the slide. What are our challenges with getting the right kind of fertilizer? Because I have found so many specifications, triple 20, triple 19, triple 16, a boilerplate, very little thought to what the plants need, the seeds need, and the time that fertilizer is actually going to be there, how amenable those fertilizers are.
A lot of times it goes back to the seed where you have a nurse crop or your native crops, and you go down as an applicator and we apply this boilerplate seed, our fertilizer spec, and we get our say, temporary cover to come up, and we've eaten up most of our fertilizer. Well, then, again, going back to the timing of the job sites, then our real natives are trying to come up, and we have lost most of our fertilizer already to our nurse crop. And we're, with all of that fertilizer, only not worried about the, say, biotic health of the dirt. There's nothing there to sustain it. We pretty much burned it up. There's nothing left to feed off of, and then our natives that we're looking to sustain the site seem to suffer the most, and we just don't get the growth we need out of them. It was all eaten up in the nurse crop.
Dean, I remember having discussions with you probably maybe even 3 years ago about the amount of nitrogen that we were putting out there and potentially feeding the weeds and out competing our natives, and then slow release it. Speak to them, some of that.
Yeah, you know, like Alex was saying, you know, there's a common spec out there. We see a lot of specifications for, pounds of nitrogen per acre, you know, and so a lot of these specifications can come depending on what part of the country you are, almost from an agricultural standpoint. And so we deal with all kinds of different projects, I'm sure everybody in this room does, where feeding the weeds, you know, if you're on a Bureau of Land Management project, you know, that's the first thing that they're worried about is how much nitrogen you're putting down. And so you do have to take that into account on what type of vegetation you're trying to establish and what part of the country you're in, to your point too, as far as what the soil health is. And so, you know, there's a couple different kinds of materials out there as far as fertilizers go, whether they're organic fertilizers or whether they're more of a synthetic or a fast release type product.
Hold you off right there. We're not trying to plug any particular products, but later this afternoon, the trade show floor will be open, and there are many vendors and suppliers that can answer all these specific questions for you.
Thank you, Alex. And so that's important to know. You know, when you're doing a specification, what type of vegetation or seed you're using. You know, for natives, especially in the western part of the United States, those germination rates are considerably longer. And so you might want to use more of a slow release product for those nutrients to be there when that germination happens.
And I've heard plenty of talk, especially in the Pacific Northwest, that when we choose some of those readily available amenable sources of nitrogen, we actually wind up displacing quite a bit of that into the receiving environment and causing problems with algal blooms, and we've seen water quality issues resulting from over-fertilization. Red, I'd like to ask you to expand a little bit on Dean's point there with regards to so many of the specifications coming from agricultural. Grow a crop, grow it fast, chop it down. Not sustainable. Can you help us get a better one?
I would recommend a nutrient management plan put together, which would involve soil analysis on the beginning or the planning phase of the project, as compared to these boilerplate seeding specifications. Yes, I think if there was more thought and awareness put into the front end of these projects, that would allow for the fertility to be available to the permanent species, the native species, and not necessarily only available to the early successionals, whether that's weeds or cover crops. To me, it is a nutrient management plan would be a very viable solution for this problem, and that would entail somebody, an expert, analyzing the soil, determining the vegetation and the timing of vegetation, and would ultimately prevent any pollution runoff of any sort.
I want to throw a little caveat out there for you, because while I agree with everything you said about soil testing, keep in mind that when we head out there with the big yellow iron and we tell those guys, hey, you got to get a soil test before we start so we can get our right nutrient management plan put together, they grabbed a bunch of soil samples from the surface and sent it in. I'm like, well, aren't we cutting down 20 feet here? Won't that be different by the time we get there? And so those of you specified sounds good on paper, but oftentimes in the field there can be a disconnect.
Exactly. I would make sure that your soil analysis are from the seed bed, not from the project where that would be removed. So understanding the nutrient composition of the seed bed is ultimately what's going to determine your success in vegetation.
Lauren, when you supply fertility packages or fertilizers to projects, what are they thinking in terms of purchasing the materials? I know there's a ton of variety out there. And when we had our body turf management programs doing golf courses, we were very particular about not wanting to mow a whole lot, but you know, we want the TV color green to look proper at the right time. we had things like iron and slow release and sulfur coated, urea coated, all these different formulations. But price has got to come into this, yeah?
It does. It does. And a lot of times on fertilizer now, for the record, I come from Texas, and just about, I think maybe there are 4 projects I've ever worked as a distributor in Texas that did not have a blanket triple 15 specification on it. So certainly we do see those. I wish we paid more attention to those. One point, kind of going back to these guys' point that I wish we paid more attention to is, yes, your soil testing is done at the start of projects. I've seen projects where that is done, that's in the bid package, the nutrient plan is taken into account. A couple of those projects that didn't just use the blanket triple 15 spec. But then pull another soil test when it's time to install, it goes to the point of what actually is in the seed bed, or even if it's the same soil that was tested before, if it's been stockpiled for 18 months in a 12-foot high pile that hasn't been turned, it's a very different product that you're trying to revegetate 18 months later, right? So certainly that's a privacy overload.
It's almost like the panel planned the discussion and segued right into the next question.
Well, not really a question. One of the things that I learned about recently.
Hold on a second, I'm gonna run this out there, so I really hear you.
Thanks. One of the things I learned about recently was that you have to watch what's in the middle of your stockpile, because if that's there for like 6 months or 8 months, it cooks on the inside, so you lose a lot of the soil nutrients.
Susanna is not a plant, by the way, and moving into soil health, that's one of the key points. We do a better job harvesting and salvaging our topsoil, but when we create that pile, there is an anaerobic environment that can be created, which will cook off some of that beneficial bacteria. Coming from a purchaser in the field representing the Department of Transportation, we pay a premium for what I call browner dirt. There's soil and there's dirt, and they're very different. And soil is alive. Soil is made up of much more than just a mineral component, which is what we're often left with at the end of the project, trying to revegetate. Even when we get the right seed and the right fertilizer and the right temperatures and the right schedule and the right timing, there can still be a significant portion missing. Dustin, what are you succeeding with in overcoming some of those challenges?
A lot of times it's soil amendments, not just for example, we had a project in Houston and they wanted to try, they had problems growing grass, so we tried just soil amendments to go on beyond just the fertilizer till they kind of get the nutrients that need to sustain that growth. And you see a lot of people now trying to get away from, say, getting a stockpile topsoil that they have no control of. The guy running the bulldozer doesn't care whether it's good or bad or whatever. All he knows is he's got to go spread it 4 inches. So then you start getting into these soil amendments that you have more control of. So you can do your soil test, then you can go back and apply exactly what's needed, and you're getting down at the ground level for the plant to give it everything it needs, and then top it off with some fertilizer to finish it out.
And I know when we're talking soil amendments, we've had to think of things like topsoil and compost, and I find those words to be universal yet very different. There's a lot of variety when it comes to what we label topsoil. There's a significant variety in terms of what we label compost. But we're all trying to get better organic matter that's going to support the microbial communities, the fungi communities that are necessary for nutrient cycling, as well as the plants to access the necessary water, nutrients, and all that through the relationships with fungi in the soil as well. Dean, what are you succeeding with? I know that you play with a number of recipes. We know there's commercially available prepackaged products on the market, but there's also a lot of materials that for years folks have been using to try to improve. I remember having compost tea brewers in the maintenance shed of the golf course, and we'd go dig up soil from healthy areas, brew tea, and spray it out on the distressed areas.
Yeah, there's a number of different kinds of products on the market, whether it's the organic fertilizers, the synthetic fertilizers, the new biotic soil amendments, products that help with organic matter in the soils to increase organic matter in the soils. I think it kind of starts with conserving your topsoil too. So educating that contractor. I was just in a meeting with the Department of Transportation, and they're actually starting to talk about windrowing your topsoil. And so, and then some of the oil and gas projects that we do, they're actually trying to find contractors, seeding contractors that can actually do salvaging topsoil prior to disturbance. And so there's a little bit of a push on identifying what topsoil is. You know, it's still doing a soil test, so thank you for bringing that up. And also, I love that you brought up the topsoil, the stockpile topsoil. And so, you know, salvaging your topsoil, understanding and using it and keeping it alive by windrowing it, using it as a BMP to burn.
So the windrow would cut down on that breakdown in the environment inside the middle of the pot, right?
Correct. Yeah, because you're not doing a template stockpile. You're using it more as a BMP. So you still have to stabilize it, establish vegetation on it to be in compliance with whatever the stormwater regulations are. And then you do a soil test, right? And based on that soil test, there's all kinds of amendments that you can use to adjust a pH issue, salts, you know, that's a big one. And also organic matter. You know, a lot of people overlook, and to your point about the color of the dirt, right? They think it's good topsoil. I have this conversation with my brother all the time. He's a planter. And I'm like, well, you know, we need to do a soil test. And he's like, it's fine, it's fine. And it has like less than 1% organic matter in it or something like that. So
But it's a darker brown. Speaking of your windrowing, I recall seeing a project where they actually were able to use the windrowed topsoil as the perimeter sediment control. And by while the dust control was going on with the water truck, they just threw a little bit of seed, and there was a tremendous seed bank in there. They had a chiphead caterpillar running all the length of their project. That was their sediment control, and then they just groomed it up the slope, and they were done.
yeah, I mean, it's all, you know, what's your permitted site, how much area do you have, you know, transportation, you know, DOTs don't have as much. Their right of way is their right of way, so they have to watch how much they have. When you get into other, you know, maybe more private type work, they can increase that permitted site. They're actually going to decrease the cost of the project by using that topsoil, because then you don't have to use a bunch of amendments to get it back to where it's at. And when you do, there's going to start with the soil test, and then you can, you know, they can get your distributor, your supplier, your seed company, and they can help you choose the right materials to go in and adjust any other issues. That might be it.
Brad is a specifier and a plan creator. I know you could run this down a rabbit hole here for a significant amount of time, but beyond organic matter, on soil fertility, patient exchange capacity, some of those other things that the group can benefit from hearing that you've experienced success in.
Sure, cation exchange capacity, aggregate stability, those are two components that outside of the soil fertility community or the soil science community, you don't hear those words very often. And to me, that's to the detriment of all of us in this room. I think that understanding cation exchange capacity, the soil's ability to hold nutrients and release nutrients, and then aggregate stability is going to affect the infiltration rate of the soil, which is ultimately going to determine how much runoff you have and affect stormwater planning. So, you know, I think there's a soil science component to what we do, and I would encourage everyone in this room to find somebody that you're comfortable with in having those conversations, because without understanding those things, some of this may be for naught.
Lauren sounded like you had something you wanted to say, but I would also like to hear some of the challenges in ensuring that the end users are acquiring the right materials for their project-specific needs. Because there is no single specification or a single product or single way of doing things that's going to solve everybody's problems, is there?
That is right. So there's a lot of different ways to skin that cat. But you kind of got to know what the cat is that needs to be skinned. And that is going to come from a soil test. I think all of us up here, the contractors who care about doing a good job, and distributors who care about doing a good job, vegetation specialists, and manufacturers, we are all desperate for the soil tests to get done so that we can customize these. As I was speaking before, you know, we had it was a very cut and paste revegetation spec that we ran across the Texas all the time. The fertilizer specs, 99.9 times out of 10, just pointed back to the DOT spec, which is the triple 14. My biggest pet peeve, and I forced this line on this group because this is a point I hit over and over again with people, that we're just paying attention to the nitrogen, the phosphorus, the potassium, the big macronutrients on those projects. To me, that is very similar to rabbit starvation, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with rabbit starvation. If all you are eating is rabbit, you will starve to death. It has plenty of protein, but it doesn't have enough fats for your body to survive off of. When we're just focused on macronutrients, we're not paying attention to the organic matter, the cation exchange capacity, micronutrients, all these other components for vegetation success. We are putting our plants, our vegetation on our job sites in a condition that's similar to rabbit starvation, because they have, you know, the big numbers they need, right? They've got those macronutrients they need. They're not going to thrive, and they're not going to be sustainable. We're not paying attention to all the rest of that comes into play. So I hit this point, and everybody thinks that's the weirdest analogy, but it does make sense to me.
Okay, well, I want to thank our panel for opening up the conversation. I believe the session behind us was canceled, so we do have extra time, but I want to allow for any questions from the group to any members of our panel you guys might have. And I'm going to start with the first hand. It's up over here.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Conley, and I'm a soil scientist, so right on. So, I really wanted to key in on that comment about what you said, that the material that often ends up on top of the site is 20, 50 feet down. And so how often do you hear contractors acknowledging geochemistry, and even if you had soil survey to give you that information, that's not going to get you the overburden geochemistry and weathering rates and long time. I mean, is that just something that's so far out that people can't even talk about it because it's like there's not enough time or finances to talk about that?
Red,
That's a great question. I completely understand your point in that there is a soil science need to understand the material that's going to become the seedbed. And you're not going to find that information from USGS, NRCS. That is not publicly accessible. That information is going to have to be determined on that site. So I can't answer your question as to why that does not happen, but it needs to happen. Otherwise, the project will suffer significantly for not being able to sustain early successional or permanent vegetation you want.
One thing I might add, just from a DOT perspective, we are looking at stability, we are looking at carrying capacities, we are looking at compaction rates. Most of our designers are going to toss it off to the landscape architects. There's some assumptions that are made there, and then it starts to become a discussion of plant palette. And for whatever reasons, that's the first time I've even ever heard that phrase brought up in the concept of creating better designs. Thanks for bringing it up, and maybe next year we'll have something better to report. Next question.
My questions are kind of related to that. As a soil scientist, I can also appreciate the fact that so many times you're brought in after the fact, and enough planning wasn't done early to strip what should have been stripped or mixed or whatever, and then they say fix it, you know. So I believe in the planning part of, to me, reclamation restoration starts way before anything's moved, and so that planning is really important. But two of the things, and maybe you guys have already talked about it, but two of the things that I think are wrong are even strip rate, you know, take 6 inches no matter what, and especially on western rangelands like pipelines where, you know, you might have really good material, but you might not have anything that you should take, as well as the terminology you kind of hit on that between topsoil and subsoil and seedbed material. And those terms get really watered down and mixed up, and before long, you don't really know what you're talking about. So, you know, everybody's not on the same wavelength